Today, I have a very special guest, my friend and coach, Larry Winget. Now, you may be asking, who's Larry Winget? Larry Winget is a 6 times New York Times Wall Street Journal bestseller. He's had his own television series on A&E. He's been on many national television news shows talking about business, personal responsibility, and he's also trademarked the pit bull of personal development. He's in the Speaker Hall of Fame and recently named as one of the top 50 greatest keynote speakers in the world. Larry Winget. How you doing, Larry?
You know, I can never wait to hear what I'm going to say after hearing that introduction. Anybody that famous and that good's got to have something smart to say. I hope I do.
You know what, Larry? I was reading that, and sometimes I sit here, and as I mentioned earlier, Larry is not only a friend, but he's actually a business coach of mine. And Larry, I want to kind of tell you how I kind of heard about you. I first heard about you last year. I went to a business event with Suzanne Evans, and we were talking, and she told me, before you come to this event, Carlos, I want you to read, and I have the book here, You're Broke Because You Want to Be. And I know you've written a lot of books, and that title intrigued the hell out of me because of the type of business that I do. And after reading that book, I'm like, oh my God, I got to listen to this guy. And you are in the face of individuals. And after listening to you for a few days, I'm like, you know what? Someday Larry will become my coach, because I know Larry has seen what I deal with on a daily basis. In fact, you actually even had a TV show called The Big Spender. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I'm glad that title intrigued you. You know, I've always said I write good books, but I write great titles. You're broke because you want to be. Your kids are your own fault. People are idiots, and I can prove it. Grow a pair. Shut up. Stop whining. Get a life. I mean, good God, who wouldn't want to read all of those just based on the title alone? So,
absolutely.
So I write great titles that intrigue people, and pretty much what I do, whether it be in your business, your personal life, your finances, with your kids and in your family, your relationships, is I just hold up this mirror of stupidity to the world and say, these actions create these results. And if these are your results, let's go look real hard at your actions. Mm-hmm. And everything I've done for 30 years, Carlos, is based on the oldest joke in the world. And the joke is, and everybody could finish this for me, guy goes in to see the doctor and he says, hey, doctor, it hurts when I do this. And then the doctor says, well, then don't do that.
Right.
And so that's what I have people do. I have them look at their actions and their results and saying, you got to change what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And Big Spender, the television show, it actually should have been called The Big Enabler. Because every spender has an enabler who allows that to happen. Mm-hmm. I never dealt with anybody who didn't have someone that was that enabler, that their mother, their husband, mm-hmm. that allowed them to get in that position and never held them accountable or showed them what they were doing to their lives. And what I do is try to get out ahead of that mm-hmm. in people's lives and their businesses and their relationships and their finances, and say, look, you're going down the wrong path because you're doing a lot of stupid stuff. And I try to head that stupid stuff off at the pass. Big Spender was a show where we went in and exposed people's ridiculous spending ways around their money. Mm-hmm. People who, and when you look at society, it's easy to find that. We have a society right now where 50% of Americans spend more money than they earn, which to me is a clue. You got to dial back your spending and start to look at what it's doing to your life and to your family and to your future.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that, yet so many people bitch and complain about the government overspending, yet they're doing that in their own lives and causing nightmares.
You know, I watched an old clip the other day when I was on with Larry King. Uh-huh. And Larry and I didn't get along particularly well on our interview, because I said, you cannot be financially sound when you're spending more than you earn. You just can't. And until you rein in your spending, you're never going to be on firm footing. And he said, well, certainly applies to people in their personal lives, Larry, but you can't expect a business or certainly the government to act that way. And I go, actually, I do. I do expect the government to act that way. I do expect businesses to act that way. I don't care what the entity is, whether it be an individual, a corporation, or the government. You can't spend more than you earn. Something eventually will be sacrificed or suffer as a result of that. So there's only two ways to have more money, only two ways in the whole world. And that's spend less or earn more. Hopefully, you can figure out how to do both. Right. Spend less and earn more. But that's the only way that you end up with more money. And so people have to look at the way they spend their money. Right. And they have to, people used to say want tos and need tos. Do I want to have that? Do I need to have that? I think it goes past that. I think you get into the wants, needs, and can't live withouts. And people who are truly in trouble, they got to back it all down. I can't live without this. This is absolutely something that we have to survive. And then you move it up to, we need these things. And then eventually, when there's money left over, you get to say, I get to have that because I want it. But we live in reverse of that these days. We buy what we want, we sacrifice what we need, and we do without what we can't live without. And then where do you turn? To someone else to make up the difference. We're totally screwed up as a society because we're living backwards.
It's amazing because obviously you know what I do because you coach me on it. I help people that are usually in trouble with the government because they haven't paid their taxes or haven't filed their taxes. And one of the things that happened to me, and it brings me up, I think about this big spender, is that back in my 20s, I made a bad decision and stopped filing my somebody gave me some, as a young 19-year-old, 20-year-old gave me a thing, claimed more W-2s so you get a bigger paycheck. And what ends up happening when you claim more exemptions on that, you end up owing more taxes when it's time to file. So I ended up in a situation where I couldn't pay that tax bill. So I didn't file the tax return. And then next year rolls around and you don't change it because what typically happens is you're getting a bigger paycheck. Well, you're going to spend more money. I remember I ended up buying a 1987 Nissan hardbody truck. I ended up getting a bigger apartment. And now literally I need that entire paycheck to live the lifestyle I'm living, but I'm not paying the government, as you told me, their money. And they want their money eventually. And I went 8 years that way. And that was a secret I kept from everybody, Larry. I didn't tell my family members. I didn't tell my friends. Hell, you don't tell your employer, but they eventually find out. So the problem is that, once people start spending all that money, if they don't make some hard changes, their life can literally tumble out of control. And I'm pretty sure
there's more shame around money than I think just about any other thing. I think that's the most common shame. First of all, people will lie to you about money quicker than they'll lie to you about anything. How much they got, how much they spend, how much they have on hand, how much they have saved. People lie to you about their money.
Yes.
And then there's so much shame around the stupid things that they've done with their money. There's so much financial infidelity in marriages. That's the number one source of infidelity. It's not cheating on your husband or your wife with another human being. It's cheating with your money. You buy stuff and you don't tell your husband, you don't tell your wife. And so there's just all of this that goes on around the concept of money. And then and a lot of it, Carlos, is just what you said. Bad, stupid advice when we're young and don't know better. We are a financially illiterate society. Illiterate to the point, and I love the point that you made there, that people think that it's all my money, and when the IRS gets ticked off and wants it, they say, and you've heard them say more than I have, they say the IRS is coming after my money. No, folks, the IRS is coming after their money. That's their money. You should have paid it to them.
Right.
And they say, well, the IRS, the government doesn't have the right. My original mentor was a guy named Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn had a thing that said, the government is like the golden goose. And the golden goose lays that golden egg all the time. And we call that a military to defend us, roads to drive on. And he runs through all the good things that the government does provide for us. Mm-hmm. And he said, somebody's got to feed the goose. Yes, the goose eats too much.
Right.
It does. Mm-hmm. But you still got to feed the goose. You can't starve the goose to death. And listen, the goose is coming after its money because it's going to be fed. And so what we have to do, we have a responsibility to ourselves to become financially literate. We have a responsibility to ourselves to not do those stupid things. We have a responsibility to our family to make sure that we're spending less than we earn, so we're able to take care of them in the present as well as in the future. We have so much responsibility, and I'm the pit bull of personal development, and my number one theme is personal responsibility. I think everything in your life's your own damn fault. Mm-hmm. But with that responsibility requires education. It requires relationship, people like you who can get you out of trouble once you're in trouble. But it takes us saying, what do we most want out of life, and being responsible enough to make sure that happens. And the place it needs to start first for most people is with their money.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times when people come here, they sit down in front of me, it's the first time they've ever talked about the situation that they're in.
Yep.
I mentioned it before, they don't talk to their wives. Wow. I love that financial infidelity. What a way to put that. It's just, they haven't talked to anybody about it. And a lot of times, the only reason people do find out is they yanked money out of their bank account, or they got a wage garnishment at work. And that's when they come to a realization is like, oh my God, I need to do something about this. And, I guarantee there's people watching this right now that are thinking about it, not knowing, what is that next step. If you were, they're listening to you right now, what would you tell them? Hey, you haven't filed your taxes. You owe a lot of money. What would you tell them? Hey, what do you need to do to move forward?
There's an old saying that says, when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. And if people have gotten, the world sends you signals, and you got to pay attention to those signals. If you're picking up something wrong, your back will let you know tomorrow. You shouldn't have lifted with your back. You should have lifted with your legs.
Right.
That's a signal. But you know what? The IRS, and you know this better than anybody, the IRS sends you signals.
Yeah.
And they've warned you along the way. Hey, buddy, you're screwing up. Mm-hmm. Pay attention here. Mm-hmm. And yet, how many people, Carlos, like you said, oh, well, they got a warning the first time, and then you ignore it, and you ignore it. And you ignore it until you don't have a little problem anymore that could be fixed. You're in a disastrous situation where you could lose it all. And now you're scrambling. And people who are in trouble and find themselves in a hole need to stop digging, and they need a professional to help them get out of the hole they've already dug. And that's where people like you come in.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's just a lot of people think these problems go away. And I don't know if I mentioned to you, the state of California just came after somebody that hired me for a 1989 tax debt. 89. So yeah, these problems don't go away.
32 years.
32 years. They want their money. Obviously, and we talked about this, the state needs the money. So they're looking for money. These states, if you're in an income tax state, a state income tax state, they're coming for money. So it's funny. One of my favorite all-time books you wrote, and I always take my covers off. I don't like to ruin them. Your kids are your own damn fault.
Yeah.
I love this book. It was funny because I was reading this book usually at my daughter's volleyball games. In between the game sections, I'd pull this out and start reading it. There's a lot of kids out there right now, 20, 30-year-olds, and I guess I consider them kids, that they're making, the economy's been really good the last 10 years. They're making some really good money, but making some bad decisions about a lot of their money. What do you recommend to, not only for parents to recommend their teenage, I got a high school daughter going into high school. What's the number one recommendation you would recommend to teach these kids?
I'm glad you brought that book up. That's my most important book. And when I say most important, I really mean that. The way that I can track almost every issue going on in the world today. back to a parenting issue.
Mm-hmm.
And when I wrote that book, you remember in reading the book that I wrote a lot about money in that, because I surveyed people and I said, what do you wish that and I had no idea where it was going. What do you wish your parents had taught you that they didn't teach you? And an overwhelming 90% of the people I interviewed for that book said they didn't teach me anything about money.
Wow.
And we are letting our children down. We are failing our children today by not sitting them down at the table and say, let me explain what a mortgage is. Mm-hmm. Let me explain what taxes are. Let me explain what it takes to keep the lights on, to keep the internet on, for you to watch Netflix. Let me show you as a percentage of income what that means. Mm. And that sort of openness and transparency with your children will serve them well as they age. Now, the next thing is the best advice. I've always believed in 70, 10, 10, 10. It's an old concept. You know it well. Mm-hmm. That you need to be charitable with 10% of your money. I really believe that. You can call it a tithe. You can call it, it's just, I think it's what we owe the world. We need to be charitable. You need to save 10% of your income. You need to invest 10% of your income. And you need to learn to live on 70% of what you earn. Mm-hmm. Instead, we already have, and it goes back to the percentage I gave you earlier, when half the country spending more money than they're earning, that means they're living on 100% plus of their income.
Right.
And they should be down in the 70% range. And of course, that 70, 10, 10, 10 changes on your age and your financial status and all of those things. But that's a good rule of thumb, mm-hmm. that you need to teach kids from the time they earn their first $1 allowance. Pay them in dimes, really.
No, absolutely.
Pay them in dimes and say that 10 cents goes over here and we're not going to touch that. And this 10 cents over here, in a year, that might be 15 cents. And this 10 cents, and you teach them that. And then this 70 cents here, go spend it and have fun.
Amazing. And, if you're a parent out there, I love section 4 for your teenager. You have a section that says, hand that to your teenager and have them read it. Had my daughter take it to her bedroom. She read it, came back and gave me a report on it. And she loves, she loves you, Larry. I watch you on YouTube all the time. Now I got my own interview of Larry, but we love watching you, and she adores you. One of the things I loved about going back to you're broke because you want to be, there's a section in here, I brought it up. It's pull this up here. It's a section is the stuff most people overlook. And as I mentioned to you during our coaching is, obviously I went through, like a lot of people did, major financial challenges back in 2008. Literally world kind of imploded back then for a lot of us. And one of the things I was doing back then when that happened to me is something that you brought up in here on page 134 is read. You literally say, read as many self-help books, biography. You specifically say, read as many self-help books, business books, biographies as you can. How many did you read last year? And you know what's amazing, Larry, is back then I became, I was a reader back then, but I've never read so many books. I was broke, but I was buying books left and right to read them. It just, I have a specific room in my house. We call it the library. It's just all these books. And as I look at my business and my life today, I can really attribute a lot of the success to a lot of the books that I read in there. My very first book that I love is Jim Rohn. You brought him up. In fact, my daughter just finished the Jim Rohn. It's a big book. I'm losing track of it, but
compilation book where they took all of the best stuff and put it in one great book. Yeah,
you read that entire book and did a summary of every single chapter via email to me every day. And I truly believe that will change her life. And I told her when I'm gone from this world, her job is to make sure that her kids are reading that book as well. But how important is reading for people to get out of problems, to deal with the issues going on in life?
Well, there are a couple of factors that play into this. One is no matter what you're going through, somebody else has gone through it. Mm. And you can always benefit from somebody else's experience, other people's experience. OPE is an old term, other people's experience. Learn from what they did to get through this. Learn from their mistakes. Mostly what got me started is many years ago, 35 years ago, I heard Earl Nightingale, the founder of Nightingale Conant, he did the very first gold record that was ever recorded called The Strangest Secret. And he said, if you will read 500 books on any given topic, you will be at a level of a world-class expert on that topic. 500 books on a topic will make you a world-class expert. I am just egotistical and arrogant enough that I wanted to be a world-class expert in the area of personal development. So I went out and read 500 books on personal development.
Wow.
From everybody you could imagine, from the spiritual side, the financial side, the psychological side, the practical side, every angle of personal development. I read 500 books and I thought, okay, I did that. And then the next 35 years, I've read over 5,000 books on every topic you could possibly imagine. And I still read 2 to 3 books a week. It has served me so well. And it's been the very best thing that I could have ever done for myself, my family, my finances, my relationships, my business, is to read everything you can lay your hands on.
Wow. And you know, it's funny that you said that, other people's experiences, because when I was going through my tax challenges, that's one of the first things I started doing is just started reading everything I could about how to solve a tax problem. And then I kind of realized that there were experts that dealt with those types of issues, and literally ended up finding my mentor. I call him a mentor because he's the one that took care of my tax problem. And he's the one that told me, you'd be really good at the type of work that we do here. You should consider doing that. In fact, I actually keep a picture of that man right here in front of me. That is Ernie. He's the guy that solved my tax problems and told me to get involved in this industry. So I keep him here to remember him. And it just, you know, reading is it's meant so much to me in solving my problems. And it's great to have seen that in your book, because there's very few people that really kind of talk about that very much. You know,
not a lot of people do.
No,
and you know, it's interesting to find it. I think it was, and I put it in all my books about how you have to read. I put it in a personal finance book, which you're broke because you want to be, as a personal finance book.
Right.
And as you said, it's in the section, the things most people overlook.
Mm-hmm.
And it is because most people don't understand the value of reading. I coach a lot of people who want to grow up and be me, who want to write books and be speakers and build a brand like I have. And the first thing I tell them is, don't think that you have any right to talk to someone else as the voice of authority, or that you have credibility, until you have read a minimum of 100 books on your topic. Because you're not a voice of authority and you have no credibility.
Right.
Expertise comes from knowledge, a depth of experience, but also a depth of research. And people, you know, I'll go back to Jim Rohn. He said we would all do better if we just knew better.
That's in the book. That's in that same chapter. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, yesterday, going to swing this over to celebrities. And one of the things that I find amazing doing the type of work that I now do is finding out how many people have gone through financial challenges in their life. Obviously, I talk about me. I know you talk about it in quite a few of your interviews, the challenges that you've gone through. And I just read an article yesterday, and I didn't realize this. Anthony Bourdain, the author, chef, world famous. Tragically, we lost him not too long ago. He went 10 years with not filing his taxes. So this is a very common thing. You know, and it's funny when I talk about this and I go to do events, I'm shocked to see famous people that they go through these challenges. And, you know, it's just, I want people to kind of understand it's just, it's time to stop being embarrassed by it, because so many people go through it. and it's just time to get to work to get these things solved, correct?
You know, having a lot of money doesn't make you smart about money. And so you have a tendency to think that celebrities or good God, the number of athletes who have made horrible decisions, make $50 million, break your ankle, can't play ball anymore, and now you're broke.
Mm-hmm.
You made $50 million.
Right.
Why are you broke? So having a lot of money does not mean that you're going to end up with a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no shame. Yeah, you can do a lot of stupid stuff. The shame, you know, I have a definition, and maybe you've heard me talk about it before. There's a big difference in ignorance and stupidity.
Mm.
And ignorance is not knowing. I don't know how to jump out of an airplane. By the way, I'm never going to know how to jump out of an airplane. Don't want to know how to jump out of an airplane. I'm ignorant about what it takes. That's ignorance. Some people really don't know what they ought to do, and they end up in trouble as a result of it a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is stupidity. Stupidity is knowing what you ought to do and not doing it.
Right.
I'll forgive ignorance for a little while. I don't forgive stupidity for very long, because if you know what it takes to be successful and you don't do it, that's stupid. If you know what it takes to be healthy and you don't do it, that's stupid. If you know what it takes to run a business that works and serves customers well and brings value, if you know those things and you don't do it, that's stupid. And if you know you've got a problem that you need to fix and you don't do it, that's stupid. We got people watching right now who know they've got, we'll make it about your business, who know they have a tax problem. They know it. They've got a stack of letters over there stacked on their counter or hidden in a drawer, or maybe they put them in the trash and want to ignore it. To know you've got a tax problem and not fix it, that's stupid. Mm-hmm. To know you have any problem in your life and know what it takes to fix it and not to do that, that's flat out stupid. Don't stay stupid. Fix your problem, regardless of what the problem is. Fix it, because problems neglected only grow.
Absolutely. With that, Larry, I think that's a good way to kind of end this interview. And Larry, if people want to find out more about you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Oh, good Lord, I'm trying to hide from everybody right now. Listen, just go to LarryWinget.com. LarryWinget.com. You'll find out more than you ever wanted to know about me.
Absolutely. And obviously, guys, pick up his books. Parents, it's a must read. Pick this book up. Your kids are your own damn fault. Luckily, I think we both have really good kids. Actually, Larry, I didn't even mention it. My son, he's been on a destroyer for an entire year, and he's coming in tomorrow morning. Friday morning. So heading down to San Diego Friday morning to see him for the first time. So
that's a great celebration right there. Good for you.
Thank you. Again, Larry, thanks again for everything.
Glad to do it.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.